adds up. But what if you can get that glow, that blend, that, ooh, she looks so expensive vibe for just $5? So today, I am putting products that I found at Five Below to the test to see how they hold up to their more expensive counterparts from brands like e.l.f, Beauty Blender, and BYOMA. Will they be hidden gems or total flops? Let's find out. Round one. So in this round, the Beauty Blender, the OG pink sponge that completely changed how we apply foundation, making makeup look airbrushed and seamless, is coming to the front of the class. So in this round, we have the Beauty Blender sponge, which is $20 for one Beauty Blender. I got the Beauty Blender Pro, which is a black color. I like it because my makeup, clearly is gonna be darker in tone, and the pink one just tends to look a little like, oh my God. But at any rate, in this corner, we have the $5 dupe, which from what I could see in the store that I went to, only came in this pink color, but this is $5 from Five Below. It is, does it have a brand on it? It just says 2-piece set beauty sponge plus sponge power wash liquid set. So you are getting, the cleanser and the sponge and all of that. And I just realized something because in the next round we're gonna talk about some other sponges. I did not see that little slope there. When we take it out, you'll see what I mean, which makes it look more like the next sponges we're gonna talk about, but humor me for a minute here. So let's open them up. All right, and on first, before I even wet them, and I'm not even sure, I have to look at the directions and see if this one says to wet it or not. You for sure need to wet your Beauty Blender and then squeeze out the excess water so that it gives you that nice like psh, 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 when you blend. I've never tried this before, so I'm not sure, but just by touching these, the Beauty Blender one is bouncier. This one does take a little bit more to kind of like, to get it to bounce, but that might not, that might not mean too much. We gotta actually, see how it goes for blending. All right, so it gives directions on how to clean the brush, but it doesn't say whether or not you need to wet it for it to work well. I feel like you probably should because it feels a little like it would be hard to blend out. Now, the little slope thing that I was telling you about makes this a little bit differently, makes this a little different than the Beauty Blender, because the Beauty Blender kind of looks like a teardrop, whereas this has this kind of like slope here, which makes it look a little more similar to the e.l.f, but we'll talk about that in the next round. I don't know, I'm gonna go ahead and wet them just so that we're on the same playing field, and hopefully that makes sense. All right, I do think you might want to wet the Five Below sponge because it feels a lot softer. It feels a little bit more like pliable, like it's gonna really get in there and blend. All right, so I'm gonna use the e.l.f foundation stick. I love this. It's such a great match for my skin. You might hear foundation stick and think that it's going to be thick and greasy, but foundation sticks are all different. This one happens to have a nice natural matte finish, and I've been wearing it a good portion of this summer, and it's been hot here this summer. So I'm just going to put a couple of swipes on, well, more than a couple of swipes, on my face here. This is in the shade 37N, I believe. Yes, 37N. And it seems like it got a little bigger since I wet it. And we know already that the Beauty Blender does tend to increase in size once wet. And you don't leave it, drenched in water. You squeeze out the excess. And then I took a paper towel to kind of get, the rest of the excess, so. Now, typically I use a foundation brush. I use one from Sephora. I'll have to get the number of the brush that I use, and that's typically what I use to put my foundation on. I usually don't start the Beauty Blender step until I have on my concealer and my contour, and I use that to blend it out. I don't think this was too bad. It did feel heavy, like I'm using a boxing glove to blend my makeup. But it's getting the job done, you know what I'm saying? All right, let's do the Beauty Blender side. I do find the Beauty Blender to be a lot softer. It doesn't feel like I'm blending my makeup with a boxing glove. I do feel like it's giving a more seamless blend because I feel like you get more control with the blender because it is softer, but that could also boil down to personal preference too. I don't know, I'm looking in the small viewfinder here, so I can't really see a difference until I go into a big mirror, but and this small hand mirror is not. Like, I feel like we're even on both sides. Let me go look in a big mirror, check it out, and then I'll be back.
A few moments later.
Okay, so by the way, the brush that I normally use for my foundation, whether it's that stick or sometimes I use liquids, it's the Sephora Collection number 64 brush. Sephora Collection makes some beautiful brushes, oh my God. So does It Cosmetics, and who else? MAC. I haven't bought any new MAC brushes in a while. So I still have some that are like many years old where, you know, the handle's all rubbed off, but you know, the brushes are still good. Anyway, so I went and looked in the big mirror and I feel like the Five Below side, I feel like the makeup is pressed onto my skin, whereas the Beauty Blender side is blended into my skin. Like, it doesn't look horrible on this side, but I feel like, you know, like the makeup could have dispersed a little bit better. Like, if something's pressing into the skin, I feel like it gave me a little bit more coverage, but also in a way that it gave me more coverage, it might not look as skin-like as it could, where this foundation, because of the finish, the formulation, the color match, like, it looks like a carbon copy of my skin. But the Beauty Blender side makes it look more realistic, more skin-like, whereas I feel like you can tell more that I have makeup on with the Five Below side. Now, I'm saying all of this, and the camera might, and your monitors, because, you know, whether you're watching from the TV, your phone, your computer, you know, whatever, it might look a little different to you. So sometimes I have no control over that, which is why I use my mouth and my words to explain to you, you know, what I see. And that is what I see. So this round, I'm gonna give it to Beauty Blender. Like, they got their thing going on there. Beauty Blender got their thing going on there. I'm gonna give this round to Beauty Blender. But in the next round, we're gonna talk about some more makeup sponges, some other ones from Five Below versus e.l.f. And we're gonna do that right now. Round two. I don't have the products in my hand right now to do the ding ding ding, but you get the drift. Anyway, so in round two, who will reign supreme when e.l.f., a brand already known for its lesser priced dupes of popular beauty products, goes head to head with Five Below? All right, so I'm not sure if this is the same as this. They look the same, just in different colors. I did notice just now that there's a little tiny one right there. I would love to try that. Well, it'd be kind of hard to compare this little one to this big one. Beauty Blender does make little blenders like that. They're typically for, you know, like if you want to blend your nose contour, or if you're trying to get into smaller crevices like underneath the eye, yada yada. There's no branding on these. This one does actually say to wet the sponge before you use it. It says add water, then wring out the sponge, remove the excess water with a paper towel, then dip the sponge into your liquid foundation product, and in a bouncing motion apply makeup for a flawless face. All right. But anyway, in this corner, we have the Five Below 6-piece makeup blending set. And then in this corner, we have the e.l.f. Total Face Sponge Duo. So this set, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'd say 5.5 products in here for $5. Here, the Duo is $11 for 2 sponges, or it's $7 for a singular sponge. So whether you get a single sponge or you get the Duo, are getting more pieces of product for $5 than you are here. But does it measure up? And how so? Let's go. All right, let's open up.
A few moments later.
Oops. All right, I'm gonna actually use the... Just by touching these, the Beauty Blender one is... This thing fooled me. Oh my God. So in the last round, I was saying that, oh Lord, the other sponge might have been better for this round. But I'm just now realizing that they have this that can compare to this. So let's do that now. I'm gonna go wet this and I'll come back and see if we can blend this out a little bit more and then see how it compares to that.
One eternity later.
I have to say that this felt very weird. When I put it underneath the water and tried to wring it out, it was like, you know, like when you wring out the Beauty Blender, it bounces back very quickly. This was like, oh my God, is it gonna go back to its shape? Like it almost feels like there's something sticky on the inside of this. Like it feels quite weird. Oh my. All right, but I wet it, I dried it with the paper towel. Let's see if it could do a little better. I don't know, this doesn't feel like a sponge. It feels more like, I don't know, it doesn't feel porous. You know how sponges feel porous? And I feel like it just added water to my face. So, womp womp for this, which, you know, better match up because they're like similar. But at any rate, we are going to compare these to this because this has a similar shape. So when I bought these and I saw them in the store, I honestly only saw the flat parts. I didn't realize there were some Beauty Blender shaped sponges in here, but you know, these are the breaks. So these are more similar. The e.l.f. one definitely feels more pliable, like it feels softer. This one feels a little like dense, like it's bouncing back, but the e.l.f. one is definitely bouncing back more. I'm gonna wet both of these and then we'll come back and compare.
One eternity later.
All right, the e.l.f. one still feels a lot softer. It feels like it's more pliable, like it feels like it'll bounce off the skin easier, whereas this one feels like it's probably just gonna push the product into my skin. But only way to know if it will is to try it out. So now, normally I would do my eyes and then do highlight and contour, but I'm filming like 5 videos today, so I'm trying to keep things in like a seamless order for me. But, you know, so I'm gonna go put on concealer and contour. Actually, I'm gonna, through the magic, I'm gonna be like concealer and contour. Okay, so my highlight is the NARS Soft Matte Complete Concealer in the shade Amande. And the contour is from Charlotte Tilbury. I really like this one. It's the Hollywood Contour Wand in the shade Tan Deep. There's also a shade even deeper than this that, although I love a dramatic contour, even that shade is too deep for me. So it's, you know, it's nice to see that. Ooh, this e.l.f. sponge got real big. Like, this is it dry and then this is it wet. Like, wow. Damn. And then, you know, the same thing with the, yeah, it did get bigger in size there. All right, so let's blend out with the Dollar Tree. What's the Five Below? Okay, it still kind of feels like it's pushing the product into my skin. I'll use both sides, I guess. Ooh. This is hard. And then I also feel like the makeup kind of just sits on the sponge, whereas it absorbs somewhat in the other sponges. I haven't used the e.l.f. one in a while, but in the Beauty Blender it would absorb a little bit. Not so much where you're not, like you're wasting product, but in a way where if you're blending two areas that have different colors, like with the highlight and contour, that they're not getting muddy. You know, I feel like this could get muddied, you know, with that product kind of sitting on it like that. All right, let's do the e.l.f. side. Okay, the e.l.f. definitely feels a lot softer. It's a lot bouncier. Yeah, I like how the e.l.f. one feels better than the Five Below. Yeah, the e.l.f. definitely blends a whole lot better. And whereas, you know, one e.l.f. blush is $7 and two e.l.f. blushes are $11. And as you saw that with Five Below, you can get a number of the blenders for $5, or you can get one blender and the blender cleaner for $5. Sometimes you get what you pay for, okay? It's like, do I want a whole, oh, Let me hold the right one in the hand. Do I want a whole bunch of mediocre, I actually feel like this is less than mediocre. Do I want a bunch of subpar sponges and pay less? Or do I want to get something where, all right, it's not breaking the bank. I may not get as many product as I would with this one, but it's gonna do a much better job. It's like, come on, like that's a no-brainer. Now, I do wonder, I don't have any more face makeup to put on. All right, well, you know what? Maybe I'll do the nose contour. Although I was thinking of using this for the nose contour just to test this out, but with the way things are going with such a small area and the way that these sponges are so like dense, and I got other videos to film so my makeup can't be looking crazy, I'm just gonna go ahead and try to do the e.l.f. and the Beauty Blender, because I'm definitely gonna have to use something to blend this side out better so that I don't look, you know, crazy. All right, so I'm gonna blend out this nose contour. I don't know that you're gonna see much of a difference here because it's such a small area. I will say that the e.l.f. is putting up a good fight, where the e.l.f. is a pretty good contender in terms of like the texture, the bounciness of the sponge and whatnot. I would say that the Beauty Blender definitely has the edge in the edges. So in getting in those like smaller corners of the face, I think the Beauty Blender does a much better job. But if you're not... Stop scratching my couch, boy. Come on, you got a scratcher. I would say though, if you're someone who's not like, or maybe you have a bigger face, maybe you don't have really like, you know, fine corners of your eyes or in between your nose and in between your nose. Well, you know what I mean, like in the corners and whatnot. Maybe you might not need the Beauty Blender to do that, and maybe the e.l.f. sponge would make more sense for you. But for me, I could see me, well, actually I can't see me using both, because I'm like, what's the sense of having both when this can do it all for me? But again, a lot of things come down to, you know, budget, access, you know, yada, 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 lifestyle, blah, 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 blah. However, when it comes to the e.l.f. versus the Five Below, I gotta go with the e.l.f. I gotta go with the e.l.f. Five Below sometimes can get really close, and in certain categories where it's like, you know what, to save some money, I'd rather go with the Five Below. But to me, this is something that it's kind of like inconveniencing yourself to save a couple bucks. And I'd rather not do that. So let me know, which one would you pick? Would you pick the e.l.f. or would you pick the Five Below? Let me know in the comments. Round 3. In this corner, we have the BYOMA Milky Oil Cleanser. It's $13.99 for 3.38 fluid ounces of product. However, in this corner, we have the Amore Milky Makeup Remover. It's $5 for 6.8 fluid ounces of product. Which one's gonna reign supreme? Place your bets now, and let's go try them out. Now, as I've been noticing in some of these dupe videos that I've been doing, a lot of the dupe products tend to use ingredients that have been fear-mongered as bad, and a lot of it is not really rooted in science. See, sometimes what companies do is they kind of cherry pick studies and try to, you know, have things work for their narrative so that they can be like, ooh, our product's good, their product's bad, so that you're like, you know, like you're kind of, I don't want to say tricked or brainwashed, but they saying things bad about the other brand so that you buy theirs. And sometimes theirs is more expensive, and sometimes it's not that much better or even better at all. Sometimes. Now, obviously, any ingredient, whether it's a clean ingredient or not, if you are allergic to it, it's gonna be bad. But just understand that sometimes brands will demonize certain ingredients just to make it kind of seem like, ooh, don't put that on your skin when you can use ours. Ours is much better. And some of that's not rooted in science. Plus, a lot can go into why a product might cost more. Packaging, where they source the ingredients, the quality of the ingredients, the user experience, like how a product smells, how a product feels, you know, that sort of thing. These are all things that can go into why a product might cost more. Now, because a product costs more doesn't mean it's going to be better either. Now, for these products specifically, one thing that strikes me is that on the BYOMA cleanser, oil is listed as the first ingredients, whereas in the Amore, water is listed as the first ingredient. Now, you know, from someone who wears makeup and has been using all kinds of cleansers and testing products over the years, I am kind of feeling like the BYOMA might be a little bit better at removing makeup, because what happens with oil-based cleansers is like attracts like, and then, you know, the makeup is rinsed off. Whereas, you know, something like this where it's water-based, hey, it could probably get everything off. We won't know until we try. Because you can't just look at an ingredient list and be like, this is gonna work, that's not gonna work. You actually gotta try it out. So let's go do that. And we'll see if my suspicions are correct. I am being incredibly lazy for this round because this round required me to have makeup on in order to take the makeup off. And to me, it didn't make sense to put makeup on just to take it off right away. So I kind of timed this so that it would be at the end of the day when I needed to take my makeup off. However, my behind should have gotten up and put all my equipment, the camera, the lighting in the bathroom to do this. However, I am sat. I had just filmed something else right before this. I do not feel like moving the camera and the light into the bathroom, but nonetheless, we will still see whether or not we gonna pick the dupe or we gonna pick the department store, okay? Now, not that I would call BYOMA a department store, but you know what I'm saying. All right, so I've not tried either of these products before, so we're gonna find out together. I'll start with the Amora. We'll look at the texture. Oh my God, I have no clue what this texture is like, so when it finally does come out, I hope it doesn't like go all over the place. Oh, okay, so I don't think I was expecting that kind of texture. Okay. Keep y'all minds out the gutter, please. Thank you. All right, here's the BYOMA. Okay, that is definitely, woo! Okay, so the BYOMA is definitely, it smells good. Okay. So the BYOMA is definitely an oil. Now with oil cleansers, oh, I probably put too much on. Well, with most oil cleansers, you want to apply this on your skin when your hands are dry, because a lot of times if your hands are wet or your face is wet, you are not going to get the product to work as it should to remove the makeup. Although there are some cleansing oils that tell you that you can wet your hands or wet your face or whatever, use it wet. I like an oil cleanser to remove makeup and then I'll follow up with my regular cleanser. But lately I've been using, I'm getting product all over me.
A few moments later.
Okay, yeah, so I was saying that I like an oil cleanser to remove my makeup and then I'll use my regular cleanser after. Lately, I could just use the Olay cleansing melts. I'll just use one after the other. You could do the same depending on the type of cleanser that you're using. But I also recently bought the Sunday Riley, I forget what it's called, but it's a, is it called a makeup remover or is it called just an oil cleanser or something like that? But the Sunday Riley one is really nice. It has a really cool texture. I like that one as well. Oh, I also feel like I like this one. Now, normally when I remove my makeup, I'm already in the shower, so it just makes it so much easier. I could just remove my makeup, wash the day off. But here, I'm gonna wet this paper towel and then remove it in lieu of being in front of a sink. Okay, that did a good job. When it comes to oil cleansers, I don't really feel like you need to spend a whole bunch of money unless there's like a specific sensorial experience that you're looking for. So I feel like almost any oil cleanser is gonna be amazing. Like Inky List has one that's really inexpensive, but I don't really love the Inky List one because the texture and the smell is just like, ugh. But I feel like almost any oil cleanser is gonna do its job of removing your makeup. And I don't think it's enough, because I know people like to DIY, I don't think it's enough to just use an oil to remove your makeup, because there's more than just oil in these things. Like, I mean, if you want to do that and it's not harming your skin, who am I to tell you? But, you know, I'm just here to let you know that there's more than just oil in here. There are other ingredients that help to remove the makeup and cleanse the skin. Anyway, let's try this Makeup Meltdown Milk Cleanser. Now, there are directions on here. Massage into skin with your fingertips, add warm water to, oh wow, they got a grammatical error here. It says add warm water to and lather to create a milky consistency. But not add warm water to as in comma T-O-O, but add warm water to and lather to create a milky consistency. Like, tighten up, Amora. Listen, just because we want to spend a little less coin doesn't mean that, you know, we tighten up, making those grammatical errors. All right, so this is something where it says that you can use it with a dry hand on dry skin, and then you can use water to remove. Once again, reminding you of the texture. Also, once again, reminding you to keep your minds out of the gutter. Now, as I kind of suspected that this was gonna be not as effective at getting the makeup off. Let me shut up. Let me let it cook. I mean, it is taking the makeup off. Is it doing it as well as the... Oh, and it's in my eyes. Is it doing it as well as the BYOMA? I don't think so. Let me add some water. Okay. The makeup has been removed. It did its job, I will say. I will also say that in the shower, which is where I normally would remove my makeup, in the shower, I feel like the Amora would shine better because then it's like, you know, you got the water there, whatever. And obviously you could do this over a sink, you know. I just like being in the shower because I can be as messy as I want to be. Now, I will say, and it's not because it's a $5 product versus a $14 product. I think this comes down to mostly the ingredients and, you know, how they kind of work to remove makeup. I would almost always personally choose an oil-based cleanser to remove makeup. If I had to choose between the two, like if I was going to do two separate products to double cleanse, you do also have the option to double cleanse by using the same cleanser twice. But if I was doing specifically a two-parter, a two-product double cleanse, I'm always gonna go for the oil-based cleanser just because it was a lot easier to get that makeup off. It glided on my skin. This one wasn't bad. I mean, it did kind of get in my eye, but that could be like, you know, user error kind of thing. But I did feel like I had a better experience removing it. Now, if Amora had a proper oil-based cleanser that could go toe-to-toe with the BYOMA, I would say that like I'd be all here for that. I had no idea what this product, I didn't even look at the ingredients until I was putting together the script for this video. So I didn't even know that this was not oil-based. Had I known that it was not oil-based, probably would not have compared it to the BYOMA. I probably would not have thought that it was a dupe. I would just think that Five Below just likes the colorful packaging that BYOMA has. Have you tried any other Five Below dupes that are like true dupes for BYOMA? Let me know in the comments. But for me, this round, it's going to BYOMA by virtue of it being an oil-based cleanser. So, as always, both are linked below in the description box. So whether you want to get the original, you want to get the dupe, and thankfully Five Below also offers online shopping. So check that out in the description. Round 4. So in this round, we kind of have a bit of a three-way here. Hey, get your mind out the gutter. So Google tells me that both of these products are being duped by this one product, and it had me a little intrigued because I was like, okay. So the BYOMA Creamy Jelly Cleanser is $13.99 for 5.91 fluid ounces. The BYOMA Milky Moisture Cleanser is also $13.99 for 5.91 fluid ounces of product. And then the Amora Skin Clarifying Glow Cleanser is $5, just $5 for 5.7 fluid ounces of product. Now, in the US, the ingredient list is ordered in the number of percentage, except where it gets to the 1% line, which is usually where the preservatives are, and then, you know, they're free to put whatever order they want there. So glycerin has a pretty high percentage in this product. While the Creamy Jelly Cleanser has cocoa metapropyl betaine as a second ingredient, and that is a surfactant, which, you know, is going to help to, you know, get the suds and the cleansiness as a cleansing agent. So that's making me think that the Creamy Jelly Cleanser might be more appropriate for normal to oily skin, whereas this one might be more appropriate to dry and or sensitive skin. And then the Skin Clarifying Glow Cleanser, it contains salicylic acid and tea tree oil. That's kind of making me think this might be more towards oily and or acne prone skin. Also, the names of the products also kind of take us in this direction, but let's see if my suspicions are correct. Let's try them out. And it's kind of odd that the internet is saying that this is a dupe for both of these, that they're comparing these anyway based on the ingredients and just kind of like based on the product names, but let's try them out. All right, so a couple of things. I have not washed my face for the morning yet, so we might be a little crusty. And then also I just went to the dermatologist on 2 days ago, and there might be a little bit of bruising and some swelling underneath there, so, you know, ignore that. But if you want to know the tea on what had happened, you know, that'd be in another video linked here, you know, once it's available. But let us start first with the BYOMA. Now, I like BYOMA as a brand. The few products that I've tried, well, how could I like them as a brand if there's only been a few products that I've tried? I actually did get to meet the owner at a influencer dinner 2 years ago, I think. Lovely man. And I like that the products are decently priced. His brand seems to really focus on the skin biome, microbiome, which is, you know, why it has the name BYOMA. But I haven't tried these two products, so let's try them out. Let's look at the texture first. So, oh, this is the creamy jelly cleanser. Okay, there's the texture of that. This is the Milky moisture cleanser. Oh my God, when you're trying to dispense a new product. There we go. So as you can see, these are two totally different textures. I wonder why the internet was comparing both of those to this, but we'll see. Now this is interesting, having this kind of, at first I thought these were bristles, but they're actually like silicone-y, similar to the, I was gonna say the Foreo, however you say that. It comes off also, so you can, you know, take it off if you want to. But this is way more flexible and softer than that. I don't know that I mean, you could do a little, my skin doesn't love friction, so things rubbing up against my face my skin's like, rather not. But this is here if you find that to be a good feature. Now, how the hell do you open this up? I'm pretty sure it's, nope, definitely wasn't that. Wow. Okay, it's very slow of me. I am trying to figure out how, ooh, I might need to go get paper towel. Hold on, y'all. So yeah, I'm really trying to figure out how the internet said that one cleanser compares to the two, because the two BYOMA cleansers don't even look similar, and we just spoke about the ingredients. All right, so I'm gonna try the Milky Moisture Cleanser first. So I'll get some in my hand. So as you can see, I would say that something like this is probably better for those with dry and or sensitive skin, where it's like, you know, you wanna cleanse, but you know, you find cleansers to typically be very stripping for your skin. Now you can also be oily and have sensitive skin. And then obviously, sensitive skin is such a broad category, so that's not to say that all milk cleansers are for sensitive skin, because there might be an ingredient in it that you're sensitive to, so you gotta zero in on your sensitivities. Okay, that feels nice. Okay, now I will do this. That's a lot of product dispensing. I just don't see how the internet thought that these were similar. Maybe because they thought that they were cleansers. Did they be similar? Because this one seems like it has more surfactants in it. You know, surfactants are the agents that, you know, there's a lot of different surfactants. Some serve certain purposes. Some might be a little bit more gentle than others. But essentially, you know, you see that's what causes the lather, and they're used to cleanse the skin. Well, that doesn't mean they have more surfactants. Maybe they just have different ones than what's in this Milky cleanser. I don't see how these are dupes. I think they're just cleansers. Now, I will say that this Skin Glow cleanser feels nice. You know, clearly you gotta, and I only use this on a little section of my face, clearly you would have to use something more than once to give it a try. But I would say, based on the ingredients that we talked about before, that's where you would make your decision on which one to try, because all of these are not gonna be for the same person. They could be at different times of the year depending on the climate where you live, but I don't know. All right, let's try this creamy jelly cleanser. I'll try to get that up there. I'm trying to see how, let's see if you can see the texture. All right, so I was trying to see the lather here. So the creamy jelly cleanser also has a low lather. And again, that's gonna depend on user preference. Me, out of all of these, the only one that I probably wouldn't use, it would be the Milky Moisture Cleanser, and that's because my skin is more of an oily type, and I do tend to wear makeup, and I feel like that just wouldn't cut it for me. But I could use this creamy jelly cleanser. I don't mind a lot of lather. I mean, this is not a lot of lather, but I don't mind cleansers that lather. I'm just like, these aren't dupes. The internet lied. Oh my God, I can't believe the internet lied to me. Oh Lord. All right, so based on just this little dummy test, and based on the ingredients that I read from these, here's my conclusion. These are 3 cleansers. The only thing they have in common is that they cleanse your face, okay? If you're someone with a drier and or sensitive skin type, maybe the Milky Moisture Cleanser might be right up your alley, because as you saw, it has a richer texture, it doesn't lather as much, and typically, not across the board, okay? Because formulations can, you know, be different, but typically when things lather less, you know, they tend to be more moisturizing. So if that's something that you're looking for in your cleanser, well, if you're someone who would like a cleanser like this, I would say that if on days when you are wearing makeup, this might not cut it. You're more than likely gonna need to double cleanse, and even then, I feel like this might be, you know, just like a little you know? Then, if you are someone with like normal to oily skin, maybe you might go with the Creamy Jelly Cleanser. It didn't feel stripping. Again, you know, obviously you would need to use something more than once, and I didn't even use this on the full circumference of my face, the full surface. I didn't put this on the full surface area of my face. You know, getting older, it ain't for the weak, man, because sometimes I be like, why is my brain over there? But at any rate, I would say that this is a pretty standard cleanser. I would probably use this on a regular basis just based on how it felt. I would definitely use the Creamy Jelly Moisturizer more than I would that Milky Moisture Cleanser. But you know, not bad, not bad, not bad. This one I would say, especially because the clarifying, because it has tea tree oil in it, because it has salicylic acid in it, I would say that this is probably best for oily skin, or if you're someone who sweats a lot, because the salicylic acid, what that's gonna do, it goes deep into the pore, clears out the gunk that can cause acne, ingrown hairs, blah, 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 blah. You know, it clears that gunk out and, you know, gets it out of the pore. Tea tree oil is I was gonna say it's a disinfectant, but I don't think that's what I mean to say, but I think that is what I mean to say. But basically what tea tree oil does is it helps with acne. I haven't looked at something with tea tree oil in so long. You know, like when you have to go in the very back files of the
One eternity later.
file cabinet for the parts of the brain that you haven't used in a while. Yeah, so you can use it for a number of things. It helps to kill bacteria, so it's helpful with acne. It also helps with bug bites and, you know, things of that nature. So if you have very dry skin, I would probably avoid this because I could feel, especially with the salicylic acid and the tea tree oil. Now, you know, there are other ingredients in here that, I don't know, some people with dry skin might be able to use this, but I would say for the most part, this is more of like the oily or very sweaty skin person's type of cleanser. So let me know if you would try any of these 3. Have you tried any of these 3? Because that's amazing to get more thoughts and reviews in the comments here. Let us know in the comments. Okay, well, I go put my brain on some ice. Which of these 3 cleansers would you try? Let me know in the comments. All 3 of them will be linked below so you can try them out. If you cannot get enough of these dupe videos, you're just like, I'm thirsty to see what else compares to what else, I got you. Click on this playlist here where I've gone through other Five Below dupes, some Dollar Tree dupes. Check it out here, and I'll see you there.